Hi, I'm Clare Ridgway, creator of the Anne Boleyn Files. I'm here today with Clare Cherry to discuss George Boleyn. We've just written a book on George Boleyn called George Boleyn, Tudor Poet, Courtier and Diplomat, a biography of George.
We're often asked as well what inaccuracies really annoy us the most about George Boleyn, and what surprised us when we were researching him, which is the two are kind of tied in together to a certain extent. When I started researching him, because I didn't really know a great deal about him and I assumed there wasn't a great deal of information contained in primary sources, I think what surprised me was just how much information that there is actually out there, and what a powerful and influential man he was. I had no idea of that before I started looking into his life. So I think from my perspective, what really annoys me about the inaccuracies is that he's somehow seen as a hanger-on, somebody who got his position because of Anne, quite often seen as a buffoon if you look at his representation in the Tudors. So that annoys me probably the most, because of my research showing that is just completely inaccurate.
Yeah, I think the Tudors and the other Boleyn girl, you don't see him as this diplomat or a poet or someone that did all these embassies and was really trusted by the king. He just comes across as someone that lived in Anne's shadow.
A bit of an idiot, really, sometimes.
Whereas he had an incredible career, and I think that surprised us both when we started digging into him.
I do think the fictional side of George, where he's shown in that way, is something that's only come up in the last 30 years or so.
Yes.
Because if you look at the fiction going back further than that, he's actually seen as intelligent. He's shown as going on diplomatic missions. I think this is quite new, the way he's been portrayed in the last 30 years.
Yeah, and also you don't get to see the religious side of him
you
either.
never do. I don't think you ever do anything.
I think Anne Boleyn is seen as this person that led the English Reformation. Not that she did. I mean, she was influential in it, but George is forgotten.
Yeah.
And yet, he was the one that prepared those manuscripts for her. And
he went to convocation.
Yeah, he was bringing books back from the continent. It was his passion as well, and that certainly doesn't come across.
It never does.
No, and I've had comments about how can you write a book about George Boleyn because there's just no evidence, and that actually makes me laugh now, because there's so much evidence, because he was an important diplomat. We've got evidence in letters and papers, state papers. The Lisle letters are brilliant for George Boleyn, aren't they?
They have his letters as well, which is lovely to see the way he writes, and that really personalises him.
Yes.
I loved finding those letters.
And then the French sources, we've got the correspondence of Jean de Boleyn and the ambassadors, who obviously talk about him because they were dealing with him. Yeah. And then we've got his relationship with Francis I. We know that Francis I gave him a very expensive gold chain as a present. I mean, it was the done thing to give ambassadors gifts, but that cost an awful lot of money. And there were things like that, expenses. And that, so we
There's
know
all
about
sorts of primary sources, aren't there?
And the privy purse expenses, of course, with all of how much he owed Henry and how much Henry owed him. But obviously he must have owed Henry too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Henry must have won a few times.
I would have thought so.
So yes, lots of sources, lots of evidence, and it's very easy in a way to write about George because of the evidence that we've got. And compared to someone like Mary Boleyn, where the evidence is lacking. Claire and I would just like to thank everyone at the Anne Boleyn Files website for asking us the questions that have inspired this video today. Thank you so much for giving us these questions and this chance to talk about one of our favourite characters, George Boleyn. Our book will be coming out very soon. George Boleyn, Tudor Poet, Courtier and Diplomat, and we hope it will be well received and that people will be interested in hearing more about George. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Goodbye.